The time limit, as you all know, is 72 hours. So by Tuesday, 9:25 a.m., all submissions should be made. Submissions after 9:25 will not be accepted. Even if you submit 9:26 a.m., it will not be accepted. The answer to the question should be sent via email. That is careers@lexlatacenter.com, which was the email through which we sent you all these communiques. I will also further place it in the chat box for clarification. I'll put a summarized version of everything that I've said in the chat box, and I hope everybody has been able to make notes as well. If there are any questions, please let me know. Thank you, and all the best. Please, are there any questions, any clarifications?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay. Good afternoon.
She said line spacing and
Yeah.
1 point should be justified. When you say justified, what do you mean?
Okay, so usually when you begin to write type a document out, you see that the lines aren't really equal. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Should I share my screen to show you what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
Would that
please.
make it better? Okay.
Yes.
Give me
Thank
a
you.
second. Okay. Please hold on. Okay. Please, can you see my screen at the moment?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So as you can see, the lines they end at different places for each line. Can you see that? The alignment of the sentences. Can you see that? I'm pointing. You see this sentence ends here, and this one ends here. But when you justify it, this is what happens. This paragraph is now justified. So I think you can see the difference between this paragraph and the second one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you get it now?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Any questions, clarifications?
Sorry. Good
Hello.
morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
I would like to ask, is the question essay based? I mean, all the questions, are they all essays, or we have some other areas where we have to also deal with maybe multiple choice or so? And then are they all scenario based? Because you mentioned something about hierarchy or so. So thank you.
Okay. So the executive director is the one who sets the questions. And usually it's not multiple choice, it's just one essay question. I don't know if you decide to change it this time and I don't know if you decide to change it this time, but it will definitely be an essay, just one essay question. There will not be any there will not be any multiple choice. It's just one essay question, like what we are used to in the law school. Does that answer your question? Okay, so we'll move on. Are there any other questions or clarifications concerning what was stated? Okay, in the absence of any questions, we'll proceed to the next segment of the recruitment, this process. Thank you very much and all the best.
Now we'll be moving on to the interview portion of this information session. If you have any more questions on the test, please feel free to leave it in the chat box and we will answer it at the end of the meeting. Yes, to definitely remember to drop the referencing style. Can Betty now speak on the interview portion?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. As Chidera has earlier introduced, my name is Betty, and I am currently an intern at the Lex Lata Center. I just want to confirm firstly if everyone can hear me. Everyone
Yes,
hear me?
We can hear
yes,
you.
we can.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'll be speaking on the interview aspect of the recruitment process. So when you pass the test, you'll be sent an email telling you that you would have an interview coming up along with the details. The interview is typically 25 minutes, give or take. So here are some things that you need to note for the interview process. So first and foremost, and I think this is the most important thing for the interview, you have to be as
Please, I can't
confident
hear
as
you.
possible. Can you still not hear me?
I can now, but the network is breaking.
My apologies. Just give me a minute. I really hope it's better. Is it better now?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so as I was saying, the most important thing is confidence. So you have to be as confident as possible. It's difficult for somebody to believe what you're saying if you yourself don't sound like you believe what you're saying. So your confidence really goes a long way in reassuring the interviewer that you know what you're saying and you should be selected as an intern. Also, you need to get a quiet place to have your interview. So there shouldn't be any distractions or any noise in the background. You should be alone while you're doing your interview to avoid any distractions for you or for the interviewer as well. Also, you should have very good internet connection to avoid situations such as mine. Make sure that you have a very good network. Also, you should also have backup just in case the one that you're using fails during the interview. So the interview is typically divided into two halves. Firstly, is you'll be asked technical questions during the first segment. This will typically be about your answers, the answers you provided for your test in the previous stage. And this, to be very honest, is not a difficult stage, in my opinion. This is because if you have written your test by yourself, there shouldn't be any question that's too difficult for you to answer. And this is why, as Na has mentioned, you should not use AI or any other artificial ChatGPT or whatnot to answer your tests, because then it would reflect when it's time for your interview that you actually did not do test by yourself. So if you've done the work, then your interview would not, it would be a walkover. But just in case, I would advise that even after submitting your test answers, you should do a little bit extra research. So just go through the answers that you have submitted and try to question every sentence that you made. So just try to see whether there is a possible question that could come out of this line and just research on that. If you've done your due diligence, I can reassure you that your interview will go quite smoothly. The second half is you'll be speaking about your personality and your commitment to the internship. So as you all would know, the internship is a year long, and a year is a long time for you to be committed to one internship, as opposed to a month internship that we typically do during our holidays. So this phase of the interview will test whether or not you will stay for the long haul, you continue to be committed, to be diligent to it, and continue to give your all. You'll be required to answer questions confidently and creatively. From my experience, what I would advise you to do is to know about yourself and what you intend to do in the future. So this was a question that came up for me during my interview. Questions like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, 10 years, things like that. So you should know where you want to be headed. You should have that assurity in yourself, and you should be able to present that to the interviewer as well. I'd advise that you also Google or research on basic interview questions. things like, oh, what is your weakness? And in answering that question, you cannot just state your weakness and continue to move on. You should state your weakness and how you are overcoming that weakness. So when you Google like interview questions, you see a bunch of them. If you practice them, then you should be fine for the second phase of the interview as well. When you are asked to introduce yourself, do not go on mentioning irrelevant information. Things like, oh, maybe your favorite color, or things that are basically not important to the interviewer. So your name, what level you are in school, those things are important. Your personality traits also you need to mention, and why you are here for the interview, things that would show your doggedness, so to speak. So yes, that would be the conclusion of the second phase of the interview. And yeah, that brings me to the end of my discussion. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello, I do have a question.
Sure, go
With
ahead.
with respect to the good internet, and you advised that you should have like an option or an alternative. But there are circumstances in which the internet could be beyond your control. Because we know I am not in Nigeria, but I know there is this electrifying contemporality of Africa with respect to internet. So mostly it is very difficult. So in a circumstance in which because of the internet, you cannot do the interview that day, will they reschedule it for you, or what would be the outcome?
Okay. So I'll
Okay,
answer
yes, I
that
think
question,
Chidera will
Betty.
answer
Thank you
that.
so much. So if we truly decipher that your internet connection is beyond your control and that it's something you cannot handle at a particular moment, let's say due to rain or due to Nigeria's network in general, we will try to accommodate your circumstances. We'll likely try to reschedule to a later time or a later date. But this is not very frequent. This will only occur if it's something actually outside your control. So do make sure that you can do everything within your control. And if we can truly certify that it's not within your control, then we will do the necessary and try to reschedule you.
Thank you.
Is that okay? Great.
Are there any more questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, yes, I do have a question as well.
Okay, I think, well, I'm not sure this is your name. Vivo1904 asks first. So we have a question and then we have Peace's question next.
All right, thank you. You mentioned personality traits. When you mean personality traits, please can you elucidate, make it clearer, sorry.
All right, so personality traits are, well, the important personality traits that you need to be mentioning are things that you embody, that the interviewer will be looking for in an intern. Things like diligence, doggedness, resilience, things like that, problem-solving skills. So these are things, your personality traits and then your skills, these are things that you should mention when you are asked to introduce yourself. So that question, when asked, that is typically what they're looking for. Do you understand?
I do. Yes, I do. Thank you.
All right. Peace, you had a question.
All right, thank you so very much. Good afternoon. I just joined in like 15 minutes ago because I had network issues. I don't know like if there can be like a recap of what was stated before now. Like a recap. Probably I only saw probably the
Hello?
essay.
Yes.
Right. I
We'll
don't
do a recap at the ending of everything. So if you can stick to the end, then we'll do a recap of everything. Is that okay?
All right, thank you so very much.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, are there any more questions before we move to the final part of the meeting? Any questions? I will take that as a no. And Chidera, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Betty, and thank you so much, Na. At this point, we have come to the last portion of the interview, basically, of the information session, and we will be discussing how the internship itself is going to go. So if you manage to pass both the interview stage and the test stage first, and then the interview stage, you'll be officially chosen as an intern, and you'll be sent an email inviting you to an induction ceremony. And during your induction ceremony, you would be told what your internship will focus on, and you'll be placed in several committees. So like Betty said earlier, the internship basically lasts for a year. And during that year, you would have 3 separate terms. So the first term will basically be an introduction into your work. Whatever topic or whatever theme is assigned to your internship set, that you would just be doing an intro, maybe the nature or the history, just an introduction into that. Then for the second term, you would go into more specifically into your work. So they would probably assign several interns to several main topics under the general theme, and you basically go deeper, do more research into the general internship. So the internship is virtual. It's a year's internship, or the entire time it is virtual. And during your third term, you would work together with the other interns to do one group project, and that would be submitted. So during your internship, you would also be assigned to several committees. We have several committees in Lex Lata, such as the Secretariat, the Recruitment Committee, we have the Quiz Committee, we have several committees. And it's part of your duties as an intern to belong to those committees. You'd be assigned to maybe 1 or 2 committees, and you would work under previous interns that started earlier. My apologies, Francis and Inamdi. Do you have questions? Thank you. So you would be assigned to these committees, and you would work under a committee head. Your committee head will probably be an intern who started before you, and basically you would be assigned duties, and you would be required to do whatever is assigned to you. You could also be required to work directly with the executive director, and you would have to liaise with him. You would have to send emails. You might join the media committee and have to post things on several social media. And that would basically be your duty during the internship. You would also be required to attend several meetings, but these meetings would be extremely essential to you as an intern, because during the internship, we invite several legal specialists to come and speak to our interns, and we hold research meetings, and basically it helps you become a stronger law student and eventually a stronger lawyer as well. So the internship is completely packed, filled with things that will help develop you as a law student and as a lawyer in the future. However, we expect a very high level of dedication at our center. What this means is you would be required to do all the work assigned to you, and you would have several works. In each term, you would be required to submit a research project at differing word lengths, and those research projects, just like your test, will have to be completely independent, must not be plagiarized, and must show a very high level of research, of good work, basically. And you would also be required to undergo presentations for every single research project you release. So you would make a presentation slide, and you would come before the executive director, whoever may be invited, such as other interns or legal specialists, and you would have to make presentations before these people, and you would have to show confidence. You would have to show a very great depth of research, and you would also undergo a viva. So a viva is basically like a test, but it's not a written test. You would be sent a Zoom link, and when you attend that meeting, you would be asked asked several questions relating to the research you have done and relating that research to real life situations based on your research, on the research project you have done. And during that Viva, it will prove that you actually did the work yourself, that you actually understood the work you've done. And if you cannot successfully submit a research project, or if you cannot successfully undergo your presentation or your Viva, you could face a query, you could be asked to leave the internship, you could be suspended as well. So there are various sanctions that you could face for not doing the work you are supposed to do as an intern. So this is basically what the internship is comprised of. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. You can put it in the chat box or you can ask personally. But if there are no questions, we'll go through a quick recap of the information session. So are there any questions? Any expectations, any clarifications? Okay. If there are no questions, we will now move on to a brief recap of everything that has been said today.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
I do recognize the fact that this is an unpaid internship, right?
Yes.
For instance, like in my country, Sierra Leone, even though an internship is unpaid, but we have a provision that says you can give interns stipend. So I want to know equally if there's any circumstance in which stipend could be provided.
Okay. Generally, because the internship is completely virtual, there are very, very few circumstances in which the intern would be required to do something that they would need to be reimbursed for or that they would need a stipend for. But if in any circumstance you are required to spend your money on the internship for something related to the internship, then you could be reimbursed for that. But there is no express provision for stipends.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone need any other clarification, or does anyone have a question?
Again, I do have a question. In a circumstance wherein you have done the internship for like you said, it's a year, right? So if you have done it like 6, 7, or 8 months, then let's say something impeded your performance or for you to continue, let's say illness or whatsoever. Is there any circumstance in which they could provide for you to continue in the next, or you can resume at any time, or you'll be disqualified?
Okay, so if there's any circumstance like illness or you are no longer your schoolwork is not allowing you to act as diligently or as committed to the internship as you would be, there is a provision for suspension. What this means is that you would finish your internship at a later date. So you would probably be informed of that later date and then you would resume at that point in time. So yes, you could, if something does prevent you and it's completely out of your control, or it's something that the center considers very important, the center could suspend your internship and then you continue at a later time. This is different from asking you to leave the internship or disqualifying you.
Okay, but if you have to continue, let's say if you have done like 5 months or let's say 6 months.
I'm so sorry, I can't hear your question.
Not a question, it's just like an addition.
Okay.
So now if you have done like 6 months, right, and you have suspended the internship, if you are to continue, or if you are to resume, are you going to continue for the 6 months, then 6 months, or you start again as you
no, you would continue from where you stopped.
Okay.
I think I see a question in the chat box. Please, after the internship, what happens next? So basically, what the internship, after it ends, you would be given a transcript and a certificate. The internship, the executive director could also, if you're going for an internship, could also write you a reference letter for that internship. That's basically how the internship ends. You receive a closing ceremony in which your transcript and your certificate is given to you. Does that clarify your question?
Okay. Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon.
Please, my question is, I don't know if I got you clearly. You said the internship is for a year, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and now, okay, what I want to ask is that during this period now, you'll be having exams, and because of these exams, I may not be consistent in that this thing. Will that lead to disqualification?
Okay. So at Lex Lata Center, we don't have consistent meetings. Usually, before we have a meeting, you would be informed well before time so that you can plan yourself accordingly. And also, you usually be given like a period of 3 months to write your research project. So you'd have a very clear deadline before you start your research project. So even if you have exams and you have tests, you can always take an excuse, or you wouldn't be able to attend a particular meeting because you have exams, or you wouldn't be able to attend a particular session because of a test, and that would be completely fine. But for your research project itself, if you have any reason why you wouldn't be able to complete it, or if you have any reason why you wouldn't be able to attend your presentation or your viva session, as long as you give your excuse a very good, very veritable excuse way before time, and you receive a response, you should not receive a disqualification as long as it's a valid reason.
Okay, thank you, ma.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I think I saw another question in the chat box. Can intern apply for an internship while intern at Lex Lata Center? As long as it does not affect your work at the Lex Lata Center, you are completely free to do whatever else you want to do with your time, including applying for another internship. As long as you represent the center well, wherever you find yourself, there is no issue with that whatsoever. So I hope that clarifies your question. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, I wanted to ask, do we have like a group chat, or do you operate through mails?
When you join the internship, you would be officially added to the Lex Lata group chat, but till you join the internship, we would be discussing with you through mails. But if we have something very urgent to tell you, and we believe a mail is not fast enough, your numbers are in your CVs, so we could just contact you through your number.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Are the meetings live virtually? Do you mean this particular meeting or all our meetings? All our meetings are virtual. This is a completely virtual internship, so we would not meet him physically at all. Oh, no, your certificate will be sent, will be a soft copy certificate. It will be sent virtually to your mail or to your WhatsApp, whatever way you prefer it, but it would be received virtually. So will your transcript. The transcript will also be sent virtually.
Another question. You talked about transcripts. What and what will be encapsulated in that transcript?
Okay. So your transcript will include the executive director's comments on your performance throughout the internship. It would also include your results for every single term of the internship. So it would basically be like a final term result. Contains a final term result contains all your results for your first, second, and third term, and also your executive director's comments on your behavior, on your diligence and dedication to the internship. So it can basically be used anywhere. It can be used to apply for an internship. It can be used for a job opportunity, whatever you please. It will also have the center's official logo and everything. So it will be very formal and official. Is it possible for meeting times to clash with lectures? So usually our meeting times are in the evening, and the meetings If they are during the weekdays, they are usually in the evenings, usually around 5 to 6, around that time. But when it's at the weekend, during the weekend, it tends to be earlier. So it can be by 12 p.m., it can be by 3 p.m. during the weekends, but during the weekdays, it is usually in the evening. And if you have anything else that is clashing with a meeting, like I said, you could always text the executive director or text your committee head to liaise with the executive director on your behalf, stating that you won't be available for one reason or the other. So the meetings are usually in the evening, but during weekends they can be in the daytime. No, our meetings do not hold daily. Our meetings do not hold weekly. It's depending on if we have any event or if we have a program or if we have a general checkup session. So from time to time, we have checkup sessions with the executive director, where basically he will send you. It will be prepared way before time, and they'll send you kind of like a Zoom link, which can be scheduled to fit your schedule, and it's just to check up on you, make sure all your research is going well, make sure that you have no issues whatsoever with the internship. And usually those meetings are in the evening, usually between 5 to 7. We could also have meetings we could invite legal specialists, we could invite lawyers to come and speak to us. Those are usually during the weekend, and you will be told well before time that those meetings are going to hold. You could also have a meeting teaching you how to write a research project. Those meetings, you would also be informed well before time, and they would usually hold during the weekend. So our meetings aren't consistent per se, but whenever we are going to write, whenever we are going to have a meeting, you would be informed well before time, and you can plan yourself accordingly. But they do not hold daily, they do not hold weekly. They hold when we tell you they will hold. So I mentioned that the director will write a recommendation letter. Will it accompany the transcript and the certificate? Or is it just when we request for it that it can be given? So yes, if you want a recommendation letter, you have to request for it. And you have to request for it well before time, at least 2-3 weeks, at least 2-3 weeks before you require it. It does not come with your transcript and your certificate. You have to request for that specially. And it is completely up to the executive director's discretion whether that recommendation letter will be granted to you. So try to keep a good behavior during the internship so that if you do request for a recommendation letter, it could be granted. Do we have any more questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, we will now do a final recap. Okay. Would we pay anything for the certificate and transcripts? No, you would not. The certificate and transcript is basically your job well done for completing the internship. It comes free of charge at the end of the internship.
There's no limitation as to the recommendation you could request for, right?
I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
No, I'm asking as to whether there is a limitation on the
yes, I don't
request
understand
for
what
recommendation.
You mean by limitation exactly.
I mean, as to whether you could ask for recommendation as many as you want.
I believe there is no limitation, but like I stated, it's completely up to the executive director's discretion. So you could ask as many times as you want, but it would only be granted if he deems it fit to grant it. So there's no limitation for you, but that does not mean that there's any requirement, that there's any assurance that it would be granted. So if there are no more questions, if you have any more questions, please, you can leave them in the chat box or you can ask me outright. Now we will go through the final recap of everything that has been stated through. And if you have any questions on any part of what we have stated here today, please feel free to ask. So first, we will go through the test. So like Nas stated earlier, the test is expected, your answer to the test is expected to be completely professional. You should have good sentencing structure. You should have good paragraphs. You should have headings and subheadings so that it can be very clear what your answer is relating to or what that particular paragraph is relating to. You need to use the IRAC structure. I don't know if you know what the IRAC structure is, but basically it means issue, rule, application, and conclusion. So whatever the question is basically the issue. So you should follow, restating the issue, then applying the rules, the laws, the authorities that apply to that, then how those rules or authorities answer the question that has been given, and then conclude. So that's the structure you should follow while answering your question so that we can understand you extremely well. The test, like Na has put in the chat box, should be not more than 1,500 words. But that excludes your footnotes and your bibliography. So at the end of your test answer, you are expected to put a list of all the authorities, all the articles, all the journals, all the cases you used, and that list would not be counted in your 1.5 word count. So you should use, your font should be Times New Roman, your font size should be size 12, and your line spacing should be 1.5 line spacing, and your document should be justified. Like what Na told you earlier, all the sides should be equal, and like what she showed. Can footnotes be used or endnotes? We would prefer footnotes be used, not endnotes. So please use footnotes, put them, and please do not do it manually, do it automatically using Word. We would also prefer if you submit a Word document and not a PDF document. Please submit it in Word format and not PDF format. Please do your best not to use AI. We do check whether or not to use AI. And if you do use AI, that will be an automatic disqualification. For your footnotes, use a Scholar format. Na has put a link in the chat box giving you examples of what a Scholar format is. So please make sure to check that link and make sure that your footnotes follow that structure. If any unreferenced part of your test answer whatsoever, whether it's by accident, would be deemed plagiarism. So if you do not put a footnote to show us where you got that particular part from, we would deem it as if you are stating you wrote it yourself or you formulated it yourself, and that would be an automatic disqualification. Yes, your bibliography is not only accepted, it is compulsory. Please make sure to put a bibliography at the end of your work showing all the authorities or the articles or the books or the journals, any source whatever that you used. Please make sure to put a bibliography showing. Okay. So like we stated, you have 72 hours to answer the question. We would send it on Saturday, 9:25 a.m. and you would have to submit it by Tuesday, 9:30 a.m. And if you do not get your test question by 9:25 a.m., don't worry. You will make sure whatsoever that you get it at that particular, you get it that same day. But you can always send an email requesting or stating that, oh, you haven't received your test question, but we'll do our very best to make sure that you get it 9:25 a.m. that particular day. And it would be sent through the same email that you submitted your CVs and your cover letters. So it will be sent through carriers. It will be sent through carriers at lexlatacenter.com. And like has been put in the chat box, you only have one essay question. It would likely be a problem question, and your answer has to be submitted within 72 hours. So since it's being sent on Saturday, 9:30, you would need to send your answer before Tuesday, 9:30. Anytime before 9:30 a.m. Tuesday is fine. 9:30 a.m. Tuesday on the dot is fine as well. But anytime after that, your test question would not be accepted. However, if you have any issues whatsoever beyond your control, please make sure to send an email before time stating your reasons or stating any excuses you have for not submitting on time. Any excuses that do not come before time will not be accepted. This is the same for the interview. This is the same for the internship itself. If you have any excuses as to why you would not be able to do a certain thing at the time required of you, please make sure to give a reason before time. So for the interview, like Betty stated, you would have to be in a quiet place with good internet connection. And like we answered earlier, if for any reason beyond your control, your internet network is not working or you cannot apply, you cannot attend the interview, as long as you tell us before time, we will try to accommodate your circumstances. So please do your best as possible to be confident in answering your questions. Your interview will be divided into two. How many interns are going to be selected for the internship? So that basically depends on the quality of interns or the quality of test answers and interviews we receive. If we have a good amount of people who answer their test questions well and who do their interviews well, we could take as many as 20 interns for the internship. However, if the quality presented before us is low, we would only take those that we believe are qualified for the internship. So the amount of interns that are selected for the internship depends on you, actually. Okay. So your interview will be divided into two. The first half would be based on the tests that you submitted, based on the general scheme of work of your constitutional law internship. And the second half will be on your personality traits and your commitment to the internship. So the internship itself, like we stated earlier, is for a year, which will be divided into 3 terms. In each of these terms, you'll be required to submit research projects, to undergo a presentation, and to undergo a viva. You would also be added to a committee where you'll be under a committee head, and you'll be required to further the interest of that particular committee and of the center in general. There are several sanctions for not doing your work well, which includes suspension, includes being advised to withdraw for the internship, or being disqualified completely. And you would also get the experience of meeting with different lawyers, meeting with different legal specialists, and attending different programs and being involved in those programs that the internship provides. At the end of the internship, you will receive a certificate and you receive a transcript showing all your work and everything you have done during the internship. So this is the entirety of what we have presented before you today. If you have any final questions, okay. So if we have any final questions, please, now is the time to ask.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something. I understand that we've been saying essay questions a lot, but just so you don't like see your questions and then you're shocked, you can get a problem question. Personally, I got a problem question. I was asked to write a legal opinion. Yes, so it's not like essay questions that are like one sentence. So it's going to be like there's likely to be a scenario, but we don't know for sure because we don't set questions. So just so you're not surprised that you don't get one line of the one sentence of the question.
So like Betty said, it would likely be a scenario based on something going on in the modern day world. It could be anything, any scenario based on constitutional law, and you would be required to answer that question as comprehensively as possible using the IRAP structure, issue, rule, application, conclusion, and submit it within 72 hours. So do we have any questions whatsoever? Any clarifications, anything you feel we did not explain, anything we were too fast clearing and you didn't really catch what we're trying to say? Okay. Yes, the question would be sent to your mails. So you receive it. The mails you used to submit your CV and cover letters, we would send the questions to those same mails. Okay. So with that, we would presume there are no more questions and we would end the session here. Thank you so much for attending, and we hope that we have able to clarify and answer any of your concerns. And we wish you the best of luck during this process. And we hope that as many of you as possible are eventually selected for the internship. Thank you so much. You can leave the call.
It's like Gloria has a question. Glory, Abby. Someone's hand is up.
Okay, sorry. If you have a question, please do not hesitate to ask now. I think I see a question in
Glory,
the
you
chat
can
box.
type it too.
You
Okay.
can type it, you can ask. However you choose. Sorry, what's the maximum number of words? 1,500 words. Has the maximum amount you can use for your test. Gloria, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you so much for this session. I would just like to ask, could it be possible to include all these steps that we are supposed to take, the word limits, the font type and everything? Could it be included in the mail that will be sent to us? I think that will be better for everyone, those having connection issues and whatnot. I think it will help.
Okay. We'll take that under consideration and we'll do our best to include that in the emails to you. Is that okay for everyone?
Thank you so much. Okay.
Sorry, what's the maximum number of words? It's 15 words, but following Glory's suggestion, we'll probably include it in the email to you. So it's 15 words, Times New Roman, size 12, line spacing 1.5. It should be justified and it should have footnotes and your bibliography. So we'll do our best to include that in the email. Are there any more questions? Okay, in that case, thank you all so much for attending, and we hope to continue seeing you throughout the processes. Have a good day.